Welcome, my friends, to the Red All Over Away Show with me, Andy Simcox. In this show, I'll be talking to friends old and new about their team who are due to face the mighty Reds shortly. We'll cover topics such as their team's formation, style of play, players to watch out for, strengths, weaknesses, their aspirations and hopes for this game and for the future. But before all that, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, a long time ago in the annals of history, a 4-year-old boy was walking down Oakwell Lane, holding tightly onto his dad's hand. He was then lifted over the turnstile and they made their way around the ground to be able to watch the team. His dad put him on his shoulder on the cob so he could watch his heroes such as Barry Murphy, our longest serving player. Fast forward 60 odd years and that hero is still around as an ambassador of the club, and the Kop is now an all-seater stand named after the legend, the Barry Murphy stand. That 4-year-old boy is now finally back on the away end. Enjoy the show. Roll the title. This is the final Red All Over away end of the season, and in full circle style, it's back with my old pal Johnny Hunt. I'm going to tell you about Johnny before I ask him about what he's doing now. In 2021, Barnsley and Reading were vying for the final playoff spot in the Championship to go back up in the into the Premier League, for the second time in our history, and we were fortunate enough to pip them. It didn't make any difference because we lost over 2 legs in the semi-final to Swansea, but I'm not going to talk about that. The following season, so in 2022, the same 2 teams were battling it out for the last relegation place from the Championship to League One. Johnny and I went on Gabriel Sutton's EFL debate, and I think I got a little bit giddy, Johnny. I got a bit daft. To try and generate a bit of banter, I said, "Oh, it's Reading that's going to go down because they'll bottle it." I think Johnny said, "Well, why do you think they'll bottle it?" I said, "Because Reading, like last year, the bottlers, so they'll bottle it." So, obviously, they didn't bottle it. It were us that bottled it. So, I'm going to say I got egg on my face. I got something a bit more than that. So, in a short while, I'm going to put in a little bit of a video, just a short one, that Reading fans, when we'd been relegated, put on Twitter, as it was then, and all over the flipping place, just to rub it in. So I'm going to put that on in a short while. But before that, Johnny Hunt from the Talking Royals. Johnny, it's absolutely fabulous after nearly 3 years on to finally get back to talk, because we've dragged you down into our division with us.
Oh, absolutely. Lovely to be on again, mate. There are some good memories from that, and yeah, we're in League One now, and we're slightly different worlds of pain.
Oh, yeah.
Ours is off the pitch. On the pitch, we're all right, and yeah, like it's unreal. It's unreal, our situation at Reading. I don't, I think most people know what's been going on, but it started back then when we first were talking with
Yeah.
our wonderful owner Di Young, talk about clowns. He's the biggest clown in football
Oh, I'm not
for
having
us.
that.
18 points being deducted, and
Yeah.
we haven't been able to spend money on signings for 5 years, and it's I'm on the board of supporters trust, and it got so bad that we've actually had to help out with paying for hotels and stuff for the team for away games, and but we all care about the club. That's the beauty of it. It's aside from him as an owner, it's actually unified the team, the fans, the fan bases like yourselves, there's a few different podcasts and different things going on. Um, but we're all, and you watch this young team go out there and do us proud. And we haven't had a team like this for a long time that just give everything. And it's lovely to watch. Like they've got so much crap to deal with off the pitch and have had to for the last God knows how long. But when they go out there on the pitch, Noel Hunt's the manager now, and obviously a bit of a Royals legend. They
Yeah,
just go and give it everything, and you can't ask for any more. And it's unreal. Like they're decent guys, they're decent players, and like we're relying on 13, 14 people every week pretty much. A young lad at Garcia at left back who's 16, 17 years of age now. And then off the pitch, obviously I was involved with Mark with the 1871 podcast when we were back in the day. But now we've got Talking Royals, which is our online mental health peer-to-peer support group for Reading fans, but also anyone else wants to join us. We started up in October 23 because football is supposed to be an escape from our, my mental health issues and different things, but unfortunately, it's added to them supporting Reading. It's really impacted on. Yes, it's not about winning, losing, relegation, promotions. It's about the fact that you could lose your club, and that's a
yeah,
pretty horrendous thing for any football fan. Like we all, we have the banter and we chat about
yeah,
how our teams are doing, but like the thought of actually losing your club. We've already lost our women's team, who are one of the
yeah,
pioneering women's teams in. I think they were the first ones to actually play at a men's ground a few years ago, and they were top four in the Premier League, and they beat
yeah,
Chelsea. And then because of the ownership issues, they became part time. We got relegated and to the Championship, and now we're playing Sunday League football basically, which is disgusting and it's horrific. And hopefully we can get back there one day with the women's team because they created something special. And but the Talking Royals, it gives people a chance just to have an offload. And we've had some great guests as well from guys like Dave Kitson and Graham Murty
mm,
and people within the club. Kelly Chambers, who was the women's manager for it for a long
yeah,
time, just talking, giving us an insight into their mental health journeys as well. So it's something that means a lot to me, and it's a way of connecting with people, especially in the off season when you've got nothing else to talk about. It's kind of like, oh, we find, we get some people on board to join us over the summer, and now we're offering free mental health first aid training
yeah.
via Star and friends of ours that are mental health first aid trainers for Reading fans. And then for next season, we'll have mental health first aiders actually at the ground for the games to support people, just in case there's any issues. So that's what I've been up to.
And I followed you for, since you've been doing that, since you've been in Ireland, I've followed you. Obviously, I'm getting a little bit sick of all the beautiful photographs of Ireland that you post on Twitter when when I'm sat when I'm sat in the industrial north, but or what used to be the industrial north. So,
Yeah, Sunny
thank
Wicklow.
that it cheers me up a bit. So, no, 'cause I know you're a lot happier. It just shows you, Johnny, what your team's been. I've got a soft spot for Reading.
Mm,
I've told you before that my son lived at Sandhurst for a number of years, and so it's literally about 15 minutes drive from the ground,
yeah.
20 minutes maybe. So we bob across. So I've got a real soft spot for them. Um, and having to do things like pitch invasions, so a game gets called off. The tennis balls, and it had me in tulks seeing all the tennis balls go on the pitch. And I bet there's somebody in Slazenger going like that. I wish I'd have known in advance. I'd have bought some shares in Slazenger. Well,
Oh,
so
look, it was unreal because I think we had to, the Sell Before We Die guys, and
mm,
Star, the Sports Trust, we've been dealing with a lot, and up to the pitch invasion January the 12th last year,
mm,
like people weren't listening. The big companies and whatever else, and it took that for make people to stand up and actually take stock of what's going on, and that shouldn't happen. Like the Sky and all the big, it's Premier League this and Super Sunday that with average teams, but Reading's, I think we're the sixth or seventh oldest club in the country, 1871. And we've already lost clubs that have gone out of the leagues, and
yeah,
it's an absolute genuine fear that was going to happen to us. And we all joke about who we support, But whoever you support, you should still have a team to support. It's great to see Wrexham bounce back and doing what they're doing. Brilliant, and total respect for that. But we're the other end of the scale where we could have been. Hopefully, won't happen now that we could be, as the men's team playing Sunday League football. Like that, you can't take it for granted, and that's the scary part of it.
It is. I mean, my sons went to live for a number of years ago. Went to live in deepest, darkest Lancashire, near near Rochdale and Bury, and of course
Yeah,
Bury's went. They're gradually on. Hopefully, they're on the road to coming back. But it's there's a lot of haves and have-nots in
yeah.
football, and
And I think that's the whole thing with the what do they call it? The change now with the government and trying to get governance, with football to make these things not keep happening. With the AFL and it needs to change. Our local MP's been heavily involved, and it needs it. They say, oh, it can't happen again, but it keeps happening
no,
again. Clubs keep going under because of dodgy owners. Our owner was expelled by the EFL because
yeah,
he's corrupt and dodgy, and we don't know where he is. He's either under arrest in China or he's going to be arrested when he goes back to China. Take your pick, like because his dodgy dealings and like these owners come in, they think football's a plaything to get themselves all the credit, and he threw lots of money at it. And I don't know if people know, with the EFL financial fair play,
yeah,
39 million over 3 years. We were 200 in debt due to stupid things like and having Ron Gawley as a CEO, ex Chelsea, I think he was. He was giving 25 grand a week contracts to
crikey,
players, and you can't sustain that at level. And then it ruins the club, and that's what's been so wonderful this season to see my old Reading back, like back in the
yeah,
old days of Brian McDermott, Steve Coppell, this team that go out and run through walls for each other, and they care, and they have pride in the shirt, and they want to do their best for the team, and they're amazing people. And I've got whatever happens on Saturday, hopefully we get in the playoffs. We haven't won one in six, but you never know. It could be first time. But they've done amazing, and for what impact it's had for them off the pitch. 3 times they've not been had their wages paid over the last couple of years. All the
yeah,
different stuff that they've been through, and that's mental health affects everyone. Aside from the
yeah.
football, these guys and their families, that they have to pay bills and pay mortgages and do all the other stuff like everyone else does, and the threat of that not happening is horrendous. And hopefully our negative journey with the owner is coming to an end. But even that's been crazy because Rob Couhig, the Wickham ex-owner,
Mm,
bought our training ground or agreed a deal
yeah,
to buy a training
yeah,
ground with the owner for 20 million. And it's like, how can you can't just go and buy somebody else's training ground? And it was only because the Reading fans went through the the paperwork and said actually it's for use by Reading FC only. But our
I
owner was
remember,
so
yeah,
desperate for money that he'll do anything. Um, but then Kuwig had the deal done. And I spoke to him, and he came over for a game. And I actually spoke to him, and he's very, he ran Wickham well, but then
yeah,
the deal didn't go through because of battle of the egos or whatever you want to call it. And then somebody else came in, and then that's not gone through, and now it's back with him again. And he's
yeah,
got these things like lens and stuff about the ground. It's just, and like there's been like 5 different owners over the last 10 years have owned different pieces of Reading FC. The ground and this and that, and it's just a mess. It's just an absolute disaster zone. And we were like yourselves, we were in the Premier League, a number of years ago, and a well-run club under Sir John Majewski, and it was,
yeah,
things were done diligently and done properly, and and it's gone the other way. Hopefully, with when we ever get a new owner, I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, and it probably will be Kuig, that he'll run it properly because he's run
hopefully,
a football club before. He's
yeah,
not like
yeah,
Dai Young who just thinks he can just throw money at it and and have Kia Jabachong as his super agent little mate that does all the dodgy deals that has ruined the structure. But we keep bouncing back. This is the bizarre thing. Like you you're having to sell players to pay for basically the wages and different things each month. Like Sam Smith went to Wrexham in January for 2 million. Everyone's going, oh, well, that's your best striker gone. And then we find a way, and that's how you love looking at a team. They find a way. They're all in it together, and it's like I hate to say it, but it's like Neil Warnock kind of almost siege mentality that he used to
Yeah.
have, but in a nicer way because they're nicer people because we've got Noel Hunt in charge.
Do you know, I talked a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to Adam Parks from the Leighton Orient podcast, and he was saying quite clearly because at the time it was looking possible that you weren't going to finish the season,
Yeah.
that you'd finish before you played us, And he was saying, I hope, obviously he wants his team to get in the playoffs. But he said, I don't want it to go. I don't want to get in the playoffs by default. I want Reading at the very least to be able to finish the season. So he was quite, like me, quite chuffed that you've got yet another extension till the
Yeah,
5th,
and
and then
that's
let's see what happens then.
well, the Orient's manager's son plays for Reading, so like I think he needs to look after his son first, and forget about Orient. But
Well,
it
at least
is it's kind of it is that kind of way. Like we're under possibility of doing suspended. I think obviously at like this stage of the season it's ridiculous.
well, I thought we were going
And
to do
then
you a great favour. We were
yeah,
3-1 up and playing well, and all of a sudden, on 66 minutes, 3 goals in 6 minutes,
I
just
know,
to
but like
mess it all up.
that's football, isn't it? Orient have been on this. They've been on a great run. We've lost two in I think 18.
Yeah,
So it'll come down to Saturday, and whoever gets it, hopefully it's us. You can't begrudge Orient, but hopefully Huddersfield, the greatest, probably apart from Barnsley, the greatest town in England, I believe, that could do us a favour and get a result.
they've
It's
not
a
been.
home game.
We've got a close friend. Well, in fact, my son that I've been telling you about, his best man was a Huddersfield fan, and he says they've been shocking. They've been absolutely
Thanks.
shocking.
Once again, Andy, I
Can't
get
win.
I build myself up and you knock me down.
I know. Well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to lull. Well, what I'll do is I'll
Can you
try and
just let
lull
in
you into
10
false
goals
sense.
then? We'll do a deal. Let in 10 goals and we'll call it quits.
They win 1-0 and you win 10-0. Hey, as daft as it sounds, the way the way our defending's been sometimes, collectively and individually. And it's not one player. You can't even say one player's made a silly mistake. They take it in turns. Oh, I don't know. Anyway. Right, before we go on, we'll start talking about the football itself in a minute. I'm going to put up for the once and only time, from those years ago, 3 years ago, the Reading Clown video. So here it is. If there's any Reading fans watching, you bottled it. I don't know if I've mentioned that, but you bottled it. This time, this week, you're going to bottle it again. Because it's what you do. It's what Reading does. They bottle it. Come up against the mighty Barnsley, the Super Reds, and we're going to bottle it. And I'm still here. No more. Done. No more. Right, John. God dear me. Harvey Nibbs scoring goals for fun. Top scorer?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was Sam. I mean, I'm glad. I mean, I'm not for you, but I'm glad Sam Smith's gone because he scored both goals in the 2-2 draw at Oakwell earlier on in the season. So, I'm not devastated that he won't be facing us because he likes to score against us. I don't know that much. Well, yeah, our ex-player Andy Yeardham.
Yeah. Yeah. He's had a hard time with injuries and stuff, and he's come back. He's a sound guy. He's a good leader, and he's not playing every game. So I think they're just managing his well-being and his injuries, and but he's brilliant whether he's starting or whether he's coming off the bench, and it's about the group. I think that's the amazing thing with Noel Hunt. Ruben Sellers started it. Um, but I actually think Noel's improved it, to be honest,
Yeah.
because he's made us much harder to beat. Whereas we're a bit more open with Ruben in charge. But Noel's he's passionate. I've spoke to him before on the podcast, and he's Reading through and through. And he people have to run through brick walls wearing a Reading shirt, and you can see it in the players. And he's also, because he's been coaching the under 21s before he stepped into the city. He knows these lads, and he knows he's got them ready to mentally and physically and everything else. So when they're in the first team, they know what to expect, and that's clever. Like he's a sound guy, and he's got a great coaching staff around him. But these guys know what they have to do, and it's like when Brian McDermott was in charge, they know what they have to do when they go out there and perform for the team. Yeah, we have the odd blip. I've said it all season. You will, because you've got a small squad. We've only got, we've lost Sam Smith, as you say,
Yeah.
but we got Jaden Wareham, who has stepped in, and he's a young lad, and he's learning on the job like a lot of our players. But you love to see it, because they're doing, like they're just a joy to watch. Like the first goal we picked. Rovers on Saturday was such a great goal
Yeah.
you can see that what they work on the training ground, and how they set themselves out to do these things. And then I haven't mentioned Tyler Binden yet, who is probably one of the most outstanding young defenders I've ever seen at Reading, probably since AD Williams back in the dark days. And as a young kid that we got from a college in America, probably to play under 23 football, or under 21s, whatever. And he just stepped in. But what, I'm sure you're the same. And you see a guy that plays at Barnsley. I've seen probably three at Reading that are going to be way above the level that they're at, and that's Michael Elise,
Mm.
Tyler Binden, and Gylfi Sigurdsson back in the day. Like, you just knew by watching them that this is a stepping stone. And Tyler's a absolutely superb little player, and will hopefully go on to have a great career at a highest level, because he deserves it. But he's a lovely guy as well, and Forest loaned him back to us, and it hasn't changed him. He hasn't got any ego about him. He's just a very, very great, good footballer of reading the game as a young kid. Young kids, you kind of think, would panic centre back, and but
Yeah.
he doesn't. He's just Mr. Calm, and I think that's probably his New Zealand kind of chilled vibe, that he just kind of he doesn't get stressed. Yeah, and you just got some characters in the team as well. That makes that they all gel together, and it's great to watch.
So I like Lewis Wing that you've got. I remember him
Yeah.
quite extensively for Rotherham, because I live well. It's next team, next club to us. In fact, I often to get to it will pass Rotherham's ground. So I've got a lot of friends that are Rotherham fans. So and they always liked Lewis Wing. So he was a nice, steady quality. I thought a decent quality player in the middle of, whether out wide or in the middle of midfield.
Oh, Wing, he's been captain, and he's
Yeah,
he's he's class. And I think some of the goals he scores are just, the goal was a team goal the other day, but outside the box, he's a threat, 20, 30 yards. He can produce something out of nothing. And it's, you've got him, and then Charlie Savage, who,
yeah,
everyone knows his dad Robbie, who's a lovely
that's right.
guy as well. But Charlie chose to come to Reading to play men's football rather than kind of play at, the 20 under 23 level, because he wanted to prove. I think he was at Forest Green Rovers on loan
Yeah,
for a while, and he wanted to play men's football, and learn. And the first season, last season, he was good, but this season you can see, playing that amount of games at that level, he's kind of found his
yeah,
self, like, because he's, physically, men's football's totally different to the under 23s, and League One or Championship or League Two. There's a there's so many elements to it. Your physicality, the mentality, the 3 games a week, the all the stuff that you have to put into it. And he's again a lovely guy, and
yeah,
he's not about his dad's. Had Benny Newbank this week, and you got Savage and Savage now. Like, it's he's a great little player, and he doesn't stop working for the team. And we've got combinations of players that they just know each other.
yeah, yeah,
They know each other's game. They know what they're going to do, and I think with Noel in charge, Noel's kind of just installed that belief in them. And we kind of play this 4-3-3. I guess it's the kind of the formation with, up front we have, Jaden Wareham, Kelvin Hill-Batterman, and Ched Campbell, who's the only one we actually had on a signing. We got him on a loan, and everyone had to write to the EFL to get it approved that he could come to us. Like, that's how bad it is. But he's taken the mindset as his own. And that's I've watched Reading for donkeys years, and I just love watching this group. They're just wonderful to support, and anyone could have any excuse to fall apart with all the off the field stuff, but what it's done, it's made them
Yeah.
stronger and united, and having a Reading legend like Noel in charge, and Mikael Ledgerwood and Jilksy and part of the coaching staff, they go out there and do us proud. Like, it sounds like a stuck record, but I couldn't ask for any more. I haven't seen it in years at Reading, and that's a beautiful thing.
I've got to ask you this, Johnny. Is Charlie as dirty as his dad? Or is he nowhere near as dirty as Robbie Savage?
Um, he's got the same kind of tenacity.
I've no
No,
idea,
he's
you
not.
see. That's why I'm asking.
He fly like he's not scared to put a challenge in. He's not scared to
Okay.
put. He's
Good lad.
he's been capped by Wells now, and he's still young, but he's not. He's not. He's still learning the game. I mean, like any young player, and I
Youngin.
think because of his dad's surname, he probably gets, oh geez, it's like his dad, but it's a bit of a rash challenge. But 21 years of age, you fly into things, and he's not scared to. He's not scared to put himself in there. But
Yeah.
he's actually, if his dad's listening, he's actually probably a bit more skillful, and
Won't be
his
that
finish,
hard.
his finishing is superb. Like, he's got a real good finish on him from distance. But like his dad. He's not scared to do the hard work. He puts in the dirty stuff. He will run for 90 minutes, and that's he's still learning his game. That's the beauty of it. Like, and hopefully, we get all our issues at Reading sorted out, and often, we've only
I
got
hope
five
so.
players in contract in the summer with all the way the things off the pitch are, and this,
I,
whatever
I hope
happens with the
so,
last
Johnny.
game.
You need a club, don't you? We all need a
Yeah,
club
yeah, and like,
support. We
you
can't.
want this team is special. Whatever happens Saturday, this is a core group of a really special team that won't change. They're doing what they do, and like, if you can have the opportunity to add to it, but it's just kind of a little bit out of our hands at the minute. But
How do you think it's going to pan out this Saturday then? Both games. Huddersfield Orient, Reading Barnsley. Are you going to bottle it? Can't help it, sorry. I'll never say it again, Johnny, I promise you. Never say it ever again.
well, I
You did it
think
once, you did it once, never again.
I
Are you
don't know.
going to
Like,
do it?
we're the ones that are not in the bottling position, because Orient are obviously ahead of us on goal
They
difference.
are, yeah. It's about eight goals, I think, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, like, yeah, it's they've got to go to Huddersfield away. We're at home to you, and you've got, I read the comments by your manager about they want to have some, he wants some bounce back kind of, recovery from the last game, and show, whatever.
We've
So
been
it won't
saying
be
it
an
for
easy
seven
game.
games. We've been saying it and saying it, and we've only won one out of those games, so
Yeah,
I won't
but
worry
like,
too much.
there's going to be a big crowd there on Saturday, and
Good.
just if anyone Reading fans are listening, please don't go on the pitch, because we've got the threat of a points deduction if we do, and that
We'll
wouldn't be
need that.
good. So just support the team and watch the game, and like, if we make the playoffs, absolutely brilliant. We all know that's going to be for us, but also just bear in mind what's going on. Anyway, that's my
I suppose the
serious
biggest
bit.
the biggest problem, John, is if you don't make the playoffs, because it'll filter, won't it? It'll filter all the way. If Orient scored, if Huddersfield scored, all that, it'll all filter around. If you don't make the playoffs, you still need to, as best as humanly possible, be able, because you could get points deduction for next season. So it wouldn't just be this season;
Mm.
it'll be next season that gets messed up, and nobody
I,
needs that
I
with a new owner.
Hopefully, like it's we need the ownership done, and we need to rebuild the club from scratch. Whatever happens on the pitch with these
Yeah,
group of amazing people, there's so much that needs to be done. You know,
yeah,
there's it's a sad state of affairs that it's come to this. But there's some amazing people at the club that do great work behind the scenes that people don't know about. There's obviously the playing staff and the coaching staff do a great job. The fans and all those guys have been never more connected, I don't think. And obviously been with Star as well. We've offered support with different things. It's our club. It's like it's our team. It's our. I was born there. It means the world to me where I am in the world, and I don't want to see it die. And it's we'll do anything we can. We've done the marches, we've done the abandoned games, we've done whatever. Football's bigger than football has an ownership problem, and this is the whole crux of what people have said previously.
yeah.
It's very easy for different people go, oh, it won't happen to us, it won't happen to us. But we keep saying it keeps happening over and over again. And, Reading is a fairly big club in the world, like yourselves, that have been in the Premier League and done whatever. It doesn't mean anything. It's not like we're better than anyone, but it's a community. It's more than football. It's about a community. It's about our hometown. It's about, my grandparents, my parents, their parents. We've all watched the team and we've all had different parts in their history, and you want that for your next generations and your next generations to be part of that, and that's frightening if it's not there.
It certainly is. I'm going. You know that we've got a couple of young lads. We've got two 11-year-old twins, Isaac and George, that style themselves, if that's the right word, on Alan Smith and me as Little Alan Andy, like Anton Deck, Little Alan Andy. The start of the season, we got them to record, well, a couple more, but we used four questions that they wanted to ask guests like your good self. So this is the final one of the season. They've asked this of so many other people, but they want to ask you this. So there's going to be four questions, Johnny, before we start talking about predictions for the game. So I'm going to put them on now for their very first question.
Who's your tumble Dante? The one that's going down in the box like he's been shot by a sniper.
We sold him to Wrexham, Sam Smith. That's why we got rid of him. But no, he's got so many times he's gone down in the box and it hasn't never got a penalty. So like now when any of the rest of the lads go down, it's kind of like, oh geez, well where's Sam Smith? Oh, he's not here. Oh, okay, well then we'll have to give a penalty. What do we do now? Like it's panic mode. And then Harvey Nibbs will step up and score it like he's already done a few times. Yeah, but EFL referees, let's not discuss how great they
Oh,
are.
do you know, I've got to say, when we do instant reaction shows straight after home games, it feels like I've got my steady script, and it usually starts with rubbishing all the referees because they're rubbish,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think I just need to just edit the same show every time and just bung it in because the song remains the same. So
Yeah.
we've got Barry Cotter who's just come back from injury. He's a right back, but he's been playing right wing, left wing, or what have you, and he can go down in an empty room on his own. But the sad bit of it is on Saturday against Shrewsbury, he went down and it's like crying wolf. He didn't get it,
Yeah,
and he was fouled. It
yeah.
was a penalty, but not going to get it.
I
Just not
know.
going
Do
to
you
get it
imagine? Do
because
you
it's
imagine
too
if they had
often.
VAR in the AFL league? Geez, the games would last 140 minutes, wouldn't they?
So that's the first one. I'll tell you now, you're going to get sick of it by the end of this show. I knew it was going to be a long show because you don't have bang on a bit, you. Right, the
Hey,
second
say
question.
that's not enough. I'm trying to be kind of be quick as I can, but
Oh, I'm glad you told me, Johnny. Johnny, you know I'm only kidding. You know how much I value it. I mean, one of the reasons. I mean, I want you to go up. Let me put it that way. I want you to go up. But if you didn't go up, it wouldn't upset me because I'd get to speak to you next year. So
oh,
that
it's so
that'd be
hard.
nice.
Look at that.
Having missed out on you for a year or so. Right. So the second question, I'm going to put them on for the second question. So here they are.
Why don't you support a good team? Yeah, like Liverpool or Manchester City. Or best of all, Barnsley.
I was going to say, why don't you beep, beep, beep off? But your children, so I can't say that.
11-year-old Johnny. Bless him.
Why? Yeah, well, you have to support the club where you're born. None of these plastic, Man City, Liverpool's. Like I remember back in the days, you youngsters wouldn't remember this during the war. I sound like Uncle Albert. When in the back in the 90s, there was all these Blackburn fans that came out of the woodwork because they won the Premier League, and then it was. Oh, geez, who's the other? Man City's the latest one, obviously. Everyone that's they're fans, and then obviously Liverpool doesn't actually have any fans that live in the city. They're all outside and tourists. So they're back again for their tour this time. I blame my parents. I can't say any more than that. It's their fault. I was born in Reading, bless them. So I'm stuck with it, and I'm
How
happy
did you
with that.
start going? How did you start going to your first games?
Oh, geez, the first game I went to was actually with my dad back in 1981, Bournemouth away. Because I only lived in Reading until I was like 5, so I was born in 1972, which is for people that are watching this, it was in black and white. Um, I was I lived in Reading until I was 5, and then when my dad worked and we moved to Dorset and moved around the rest of the world. So I didn't get to go to games when I was little, but my dad used to go out drinking with Robin Friday, who, if anyone, nobody probably up there knows of Robin Friday. Robin Friday is there's a book out, it's been out for a long time. It's called The Greatest Footballer You Never Saw, written by Paulo Hewitt and Giggsy from Oasis, talking about Man City going around in circles. He was the lower league George Best, is the best way of describing him, back in the 70s. Long hair and didn't care, and was one of the most talented players. There was a game against Tranmere. He scored a goal from about 30 yards. And Clive Thomas, the ex-referee, refereed in the World Cup and
Yeah.
different things, actually stood there clapping. And then, another game, Robin scored a goal and he went and kissed the policeman's helmet. Not that helmet, this helmet, just to clarify what I'm talking about there. My dad came home with one of his socks one night after a night out. He was a bit like I say, he's probably football's answer to Jim Morrison. He's like Sean very briefly, unfortunately. He went to Cardiff after he left us because the guy, Charlie Hurley, was our manager at the time, and he got us promoted. And Robin was unreal, but then the off the field stuff was just insane. He went to Cardiff, got arrested on the way down because he didn't have a ticket on the train. And there's a really good photo of Robin, the band called the Super Furry Animals. I don't know if you remember them. There was a song called The Man Who Didn't Give a Fuck, and there's a picture of him like that to the Luton goalkeeper after he scored past him. He was notorious. Bobby Moore lost the plot with him after Robin grabbed his knackers, and he was just he was a brilliant player, but he had health issues as well. And unfortunately, Robin passed. I think he was 39. But Reading, we had a player of the century back in the 2000. Robin was voted that because he would have played higher level talent wise, but none of the big teams would go near him because they knew all the off pitch stuff that he got up to. He'd jump in a nightclub naked off a stage, like weird, insane stuff, and probably drink and drugs and stuff as well. Like there's rumors that he used to drink three or four pints before a game, go on the pitch, score a hat trick. Like it was this like the 70s, 80s football. But he's still one of our heroes.
Well, that's going to lead me nicely. It's a nice little segue, that. Lead
Thanks.
nicely for the Little Scamps' third question. So I'm going to put them on for their third question, Johnny. So here they are.
Who is the best player that you have ever seen play for your club?
Unfortunately, I didn't see Robin play because I was too little. I saw his sock, but that was about it. I mentioned already about the three that I thought were, kind of Elise, Sigurdsson, and Binden. But we had like the best players. God, like the best team was obviously the 106 team in 2005 under Steve Coppell. And that was a sum of parts. Is that the word that you use? Where this group just did what our team doing now. They were a unit, and there wasn't any superstars as such that But you look at one of my personal favourites, as I loved him as a player, and he wasn't the best player by any means at Reading. Darren Caskey back in the 2000s. The squeaky voice, here goes the ball, goes the ball. But his set pieces, and for I think it was the 2000 season, if it wasn't for him scoring 20 odd goals from midfield, we would have got relegated to League Two, as it was back then. So that was kind of like the start of the positive Reading journey. We had there's so many like players in our history like yours, did something like Jamie Curran scored a goal against Brentford that got us promoted. That was a moment. That was an iconic moment in our journey.
He played for us at one time, later on in his career, Jamie Curran.
And he's still playing. He's still playing. Like he's 150 and he's still playing. And he's such a lovely guy. But he was an unreal player. Like I remember, him and Jason Roberts, they battered us 6-0 at home. And then probably the best deal in football history. I saw somebody put something up about that, Jamie Vardy being the best deal. €80,000 for Kevin Doyle and Shane Long. Both sold for 5 million each afterwards, and they were unreal at the time for us. And that whole team, it was so hard to pick a favorite player. Like we've had good players since, don't get me wrong, but they don't have the same. Guys like John Swift and different people that like Cask was always my favorite because we weren't a great team at the time. When we went through to that kind of team, and you looked across the pitch and you had guys that had like Glenn Little, who wasn't the quickest winger, but he was just so skillful. And then you had the mixture of Doyle, Long, Lita, Kitson up front and the combinations. And then you had guys that, Graham Murty and Nicky Shorey was our first ever Reading player for years to play for England while playing for Reading. Little things like that. And then, Steve Sidwell and James Harper in midfield. Sonko and Ingemarson at the back. It was just such a, the team actually cost nothing more than a few, 2 or 3 million. Don't even think it was that. Marcus Hanneman was the keeper at the time. And you watched them and they just to go and get 106 points, lost the first game of the season, didn't lose another one for 30 games. And it was just, they battered everyone. Bobby Convey was a great winger. And then you had Stephen Hunt that would come on and do his thing as well. Still, I think obviously Brian's team we got promoted in the Premier League in 2012 did a very similar run to what this team is doing now, and probably not the same quality of players. But you had Adam Lafondra, the fox in the box, like he was. I'm sure you've seen him. He was.
Oh, we always wanted to sign him from when we were at Rotherham.
Yeah, and we got him, didn't we?
Every time we every transfer window, people were screaming to sign Adam Lafondra. Yeah, so he couldn't stop scoring.
He was insane. He was an insane player. Like most of the time, he came off the bench that championship winning season, and he was just unreal. And he's still scoring goals now. I think for wherever he's one of the teams that he's playing for. Watched him over in Oz and Sydney, and he was just a natural, bit like Curran, just a natural goal scorer. Just you don't get goal scorers like that often. They're different types of players, like Harry Kane and whatever. But yeah, like that would have been, there's favourite players for watching, and there's favourite players that made us successful. And Steve Coppell is an absolute legend as a manager, as is Brian McDermott, because aside from being brilliant managers, they are just the most humble, kind, nicest people. I speak to them both, and they just, there's no ego, and you can see that's why their teams were the same. What comes from the top goes down to the next level. And I'm sure you had the same, when Barnsley were doing well and had the good teams.
We have, yeah, we've had some really good players. We also, right at the end of his career, we also had Leroy Lita playing for us.
Oh, Jesus,
But
Leroy's still playing as well, I think.
when I say playing for us, I'm not sure there was a lot of evidence that
Yeah.
he played. He were on the
Leroy,
pitch for us. He were on the pitch
yeah,
for us.
Leroy's a brilliant player. I think
Weren't
still
great for us.
John
But it's what it
Majewski.
is.
John Majewski still was having panic attacks after realizing he spent £1 million on a first player, and that was Leroy. Like it was like Jesus Christ, what have I done? But he was a great player. Just a little bit injury prone and stuff. But yeah, different.
Right. Very last one, then you can breathe easy. The very last one, I'm going to put them on finally for their final question of not just of you, Johnny, but
I've
of
had
the
a
whole
stressful day already.
season.
This is the most stressful part of it.
This is the pressure. The very last question from little Alan Andy for the whole season is on your shoulders to come up with the goods, ready for it. You've got to come up with the goods. So I'm going to put them on for their final question of the season.
What is the one game that you would like to relive again?
Oh, Bolton playoff final. Relive it and make it better. Is that?
What you want? Yeah.
Yeah.
You want.
Well, I don't know if anyone. Well, you guys might remember the 1995 playoff final. Reading. It was the season. Reading finished second in the championship, whatever it was, Ardsley, whatever it was called back in those days. But it was the only time because they were restructuring the Premier League that only one team went up automatically. And of course, being Reading, we finished second, which is just typical. So we went in the playoffs and actually doing great. We beat Tranmere home and away over 2 games. Go to Wembley. Bolton at that time had a guy called John McGinley up front.
Yeah.
Who actually the story was between John McGinley. Going back, this is a funny one. People heard this. So when I was a kid, I used to be training with the Oval Town as a young lad as a goalkeeper. John McGinley played for the Oval Town back in 86, 87. And I thought I was actually a good goalkeeper. We played on the old. I don't know if you've ever been to the old Hewish
No.
state,
I
the
know
old
it,
one,
no.
the slope.
Yeah.
So we were playing a game, and the guys there at the time, Alan Pardew was there, a few ex-pros and whatever. So I think I let about 5 goals in about 20 minutes. And John McGinley, is a Scottish lad, he goes, wee man, I'll take over in goal from you. And I kind of realised that was probably the end of my goalkeeping career when a striker takes over. And obviously John went to Bolton, and brilliant player. But we were 2-0 up. Stuart Lovell missed a penalty to go 3-0 up. We lost 4-3. And
I watched it. Yeah. I watched it on the TV.
Yeah. And it was just like, you just run out of steam. We had a friend Dylan Kerr who I did the podcast with. He's a Northern lad. He's ex Sheffield Wednesday, Leeds, and speaks very highly of Howard Wilkinson. He was at Reading at the time, but didn't get picked to play in the final, and it's still one of his biggest regrets. And like as a fan, like for a Reading fan to get to any club to get to the old Wembley in those days, and then to lose the way we did, we had some legends at the time, which we've had on the 1871 podcast that. Like Shaka Hislop, Mick Gooding, guys that were there at the time, Jimmy Quinn, and some real quality players that we had in that club at the time. Andy Banal, who's gone on different things. He was actually ended up being Posh and Beck's their security over in Spain when they were over there. It's like that would have been, I think, the one game. There's a few others definite, like the Swansea playoff final when we were 3-0 down and we got back to 3-2, and then Jim Carachan hit the post and we lost 4-2. That'd probably be another sliding doors moment of football, but that was the first heartbreak. And well, naturally there's loads more before that, but this is the biggest heartbreak. But
there's got to be the lows so that you can enjoy the highs. We were, when you talk about the old Wembley, Barnsley played in the last club game at Wembley when we lost 4-2 to Ipswich Town in the playoff final in 2000. And I'd love to relive that, but nip on and try and distract the Richard Wright, the Ipswich goalkeeper,
Oh yeah,
when he
geez,
pulled off
Richard.
an incredible save from
Yeah,
Georgie Ristov. I'd have loved to have shouted "Oi" and distracted him so that went in because it'd have changed
he
the
was
whole game.
ex-Arsenal, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Ex-Arsenal keeper. Yeah,
we
yeah.
were brilliant. We were brilliant that day. But anyway, so right, come to the final bit then, Johnny. Thank you for all that. I'm sure they'll be thrilled to watch it. Um, dear predictions, all or nothing, John. It's all or nothing.
Did
All
I
on
get?
this.
I think from memory, didn't I get the prediction right the last time? I think I just said we were going to draw.
There we go. There we go. What do you think you're going to do this time? You've just got to better Orient, haven't you? Or if you could draw against them if Orient lose. You know, you
We
could,
could.
you just got to better their results. So, what do you think it's going to be? The past, the past. You know, bottling it or not bottling it. I don't think you're going to bottle it. I think, you know, that the pressure is definitely not on you. If I had to hope which team it was for me, I think there's less pressure on you than there is on Orient. You're playing at home, they're playing away. I know Huddersfield's not been doing very well lately, but it's still a formidable, formidable ground to go to, and they've still got some formidable players.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
so hard to predict though, isn't it? Like this league and the championship. You could say this and you could say that, and you just don't know. And I honestly don't know.
go for 10-0 if you want. Just say whatever you
Well,
want.
I'd love to go for 10-0 and I'd put the cash in a brown envelope and send it over straight away. But I think like I think the lads, they will go out and do there's going to be a big crowd there, probably the biggest crowd of the season, behind them, and hopefully no pressure either. Like it's like just go out and do us proud. You can only do what you can do. You can only control what you can control as a team. Go and win. If you win, you've done what
Well,
you can do.
yeah,
And then it's in the hands of the gods. And I think personally, and I think a lot of football fans would go, if Reading got in the playoffs, wouldn't that be a really good story
yeah,
after all the rubbish that we've been through as a club to show that, what you can do in adversity to bounce back and um and I think for a lot of other clubs it shows, well, actually, it's not about who you buy and who you sell and who you whatever. It's about having a togetherness.
yeah.
And that's what football clubs should be about. It's about having the fans and the team. Our fans and our team have never been so together for years because it's made them united, and all the, like I said earlier, all the different fan base groups, we have as different things. Everyone's together. Everyone's in this project. And I joked about Neil Warnock, but it is that siege mentality of like this is us against everyone else and bring it on. And that's it's a lovely thing to see because it's such a it's exciting. It's exciting. It's the old Reading we used to be, in the championship and be hovering around the playoffs. And, the dark seasons that we've had for a long time have been horrific. And, a lot of clubs have been there and it's not, relegations, promotions are one thing, but losing the club's a different story. And it'd be quite a story if we, you let us off and maybe, let us just win this one. And if anyone in Huddersfield can just make sure that they get a result as well, because you want to do your home team proud, Huddersfield. As I said to you, I think you're one of the most amazing places in the world, apart from Barnsley. So just do you proud, beat them 5-0, and then we call it quits.
I'll have a word with our mate Ryan to G him up on Saturday. But, I always, obviously, I want my team to win every game. And all season, I've predicted Barnsley, or nearly every game, predicted Barnsley to win 2-1. And of course, lately, they haven't been doing it all. But I will tell you this, in all honesty, if there were one game that I would not be devastated for us to lose, and it helped you to get into the playoffs, it'll be this game. So
Thank you, mate. I
I
appreciate that.
think you're going to win. I think you're going to win 3-1,
All
and I
right, look,
hope. And I've got no truck against Orient. Orient's scored 4 goals against us twice and have played really well. And I like the Orient podcast. Adam Sparksy, like him a lot and get on really well with him. But Reading is probably my southern team, if you like. I don't like
thank
to
you.
talk about that London and all that lot, but
Yeah,
my
no,
southern
Orient
team,
are London. They're not as nice. They're not from the Royal County of Berkshire like ourselves. We're a
no,
bit kind of, a bit posh.
Royal Berkshire. I know the Royals. I know. I know. Well, you see, you say that, but you're royal, so you've got like royalty on your side. But what you've got to remember is that Barnsley's in Yorkshire, God's own country, so God usurps royals every time. So there's a hierarchy, Johnny.
Right.
Can't get higher than God.
I'll take second for that. Then if you take a win for us on Saturday and that we
We'll
can
take a
go
fall
promoted.
for you. I'll attempt to go down in the second round, especially for you. 3-1 to you for me. What's yours? Just guess. 3-1.
I'd say I'm actually going to say 15-0.
Okay.
No, I wish.
Okay. In that case, we're going to absolutely hammer you 5-0 then. If
Yeah,
you're
no,
going to be that stupid.
that's the pressure of it all. But I just want want us to get a good show, a good result at the end of the day. Whatever happens, get a win. That's how we do it. 2-1, 3-1, 3-0. Just go out and show everyone what a great bunch of guys they are and what talent they've got and for me personally and Reading fans, thank you for putting the pride back in their club. You can't say that enough to these guys. It's a huge thing for Reading fans, and hopefully they'll make it to Wembley.
Johnny, I sincerely hope that you make it. I sincerely hope that you get promoted. But if you don't, it'll be an absolute pleasure to talk with you next season.
I'll see you next season.
Funnily enough, Adam Parks from the Leighton Orient podcast said the exact same. He said, "Well, if we make it to the playoffs, I'll still see you next season. We'll not go up."
Well, we haven't won a playoff final in 6 attempts. So, but I joked with someone before we go. I said it'd be typical Reading if we win a playoff final and get kicked out of the league at the same time.
Well, it's got to put the cat among the pigeons, isn't it? In great scheme of things, that the deadline, yet another deadline, is the 5th of May, which is after our game. If you make the playoffs, EFL's got a decision to make, and I hope they make the right decision for the fans, not the lunatic that you've got owning the club.
So that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, look, it is. I think it's what annoys me with all this. Before I go, the club get punished, the fans and the players get punished by points deductions. It's the owner's the problem. The owner's the one that has the say over the club, and he's been fined and fined and fined. He doesn't pay the fines.
Yeah.
These guys that play for us, as any club, they work their socks off as professional people to go out there and play football every week, and they're being punished for something that's not their fault. They're not the ones that have created this problem. The fans are not the ones that have created the problem. So footballship has an ownership problem, and that's what needs to change. End of. It's wrong.
Just let me know if there's any tennis balls so I can get some shares in Slazenger before it starts. Johnny, yet again, it's so lovely to get to talk to you again, and obviously I hope we don't next season, but I also hope we do. So,
it's
Johnny,
a pleasure, mate. It always is.
Thank you ever so much for coming on, and take care, mate. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you for having us on board.
Finally, as Kenneth Wolstenholme said in 1966, there are some people on the pitch, they think it's red all over. It is now.